to the Karate Guys. Today we really have a karate guy with us today. I've known this gentleman, man, I can't even remember if it was 1990, 1991. I can't remember which year. That's how long it's been. But today I take great pleasure in introducing everybody to Kelly Leo. We call him the Lion. That was his fight name. And as we get into our interview, we'll find out how he got that name.
Kelly the Lion Leo is the powerhouse of the Miami team. Good conditioning, solid chin, and power punching is his trademark.
My right will set him up, and my left will knock him out.
First of all, welcome, Sensei Kelly Leo.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And the first thing I like to say about Kelly, a couple things about Kelly Leo. A lot of people just don't know, because I mean, he's truly one of Georgia's most accomplished martial artists. I mean, he's been around a long time. He's done everything, you know, karate, kickboxing, boxing, mixed martial arts. I mean, he's definitely been a student, a trainer, and now he runs a dojo and gym up in North Georgia called Full Throttle Fitness. But first thing I'd like to ask, could you please tell us how you got into martial arts and who was your first instructors?
It's kind of funny. When I was probably first or second grade, I went to a book fair, and I was just looking through all the books, you know, and came across this strange book that you sort of flip through, and you can sort of see the guy doing these different movements, you know, and I was intrigued from that point on. Sort of planted a seed to kind of do that. Every year I would go back and buy the same book. Don't ask me what I did to the book the year before. I would go buy the same book every year. I always look for it. Don't know why. Later on, we moved to Gainesville. I was in Habersham at the time. My family moved to Gainesville, Georgia. My brother, my closest brother, Kyle, started taking from Jim Haymore at United Karate.
Okay.
And he would come home. We couldn't afford really to do both of us. So he would come home and we would share pads, and he'd beat the crap out of me. And I just fell in love with it, you know. So at that point, you know, later on, I eventually, 12, 13, 14, I got involved with Haymore's. I was there over 20 years. I got my 4th degree through him, and just got to do awesome things through sport karate and taekwondo with that.
So speaking of United Karate, could you please tell everybody about United Karate, how it started? I mean, because, like from a historical standpoint, there are a few guys here in Georgia that, started teaching karate in Georgia back in the late 60s, early 70s. Could you please tell us how did United Karate come about?
It's actually started by Ben Kiker.
Yes, sir.
He was taking karate from Jung Kil Moon at Reinhardt College, I believe it was, and he eventually he was such a hardcore instructor, fresh over here from Korea. He started running off all the students. The only one he did not run off was Ben. So he didn't have a place to live. So they basically traded out so Ben could continue training with martial arts. He gave a place to stay for him, and after years and years of him beating him up every day,
Right.
He eventually gave him his black belt, and so it just sort of just branched off from there. He started a board, had people such as Jesse Thornton, again Jim Haymore, my instructor,
Yes.
Robert Harris, Mitzi Jeter, which used to be Mitzi Tyler, back in the 80s, and they started on the national circuit. And if you had a gold top at that time, you were basically a feared martial artist, because Ben basically trained them the same way. He was really, really hard on them.
Since you mentioned that, funny story, guys. Years ago, and this is before I met Kelly, and I guess back in the 80s. So the first time, so most martial arts people had your standard uniforms. The karate guys would have a solid white uniform. And now in the late 70s, 80s, you started to get different color outfits. But a lot of the traditionalists would wear white karate uniforms. If they were a Korean stylist, they would have maybe white with black stripes. And then some people, they might have black. But there were a group of guys that I would see, like you said, they had black pants and gold tops. And they would have United on the back. And a couple guys that he mentioned, Robert Harris. And what was the other guy? Kelly's name is Terry.
Terry Hurd. Yeah.
Right. I would see these guys at some of the local tournaments, and and then I think my second kickboxing match, I went to Tennessee with a fighter by the name of Kerry Dye, and there were kickboxing matches, but they had team karate fights. Okay, like I guess like a 5-man team, and one of the teams had the black and gold gis. And years later, when I met Kelly, and I found out who he studied with, that he was a United guy. I was like, oh wow, I see the connection. So it's like a small world, but like you said, United, they were known to be incredible martial artists. He mentioned Mitzi Jeter. Could you tell everybody a little bit more about Mitzi and what she ended up becoming?
Mitzi, she was an awesome karate fighter coming up, through the years. She actually changed the way United does their side kicks. They used to just hold it down and then snap it out. She did the high chamber. She came from another style. I could not tell you what that is, but
okay.
But I think she actually slept in the gym. I may be wrong on this, but I think she slept in the gym for a little while. But every day she would get up, she would sleep on her bag, she would get up, and she would throw side kicks. And one day Ben walked in and saw how she was doing this, and started asking questions as to why she does it, whatever. And they found out that it's just a stronger way to do things. They could actually defend using that particular chamber with a high knee up and everything. And so Ben just adapted. He was kind of open-minded enough to change things to make them better as well. So that she was pretty much the reason why we throw the side kick the way we do.
Wow.
She came to me years later after she had kind of retired from the martial arts competition. She pretty much won everything you could possibly win. Wanted to box, and she was probably mid-30s at the time. But women's boxing was on the rise, so she wanted to box and asked if who would I send her to. if she wanted to kind of go professional and take off with it. So I sent her to Barry Richardson, and you know Barry.
Yes.
You actually sent me to Barry for a while.
Yes.
You were traveling or whatever. Barry's he was a really good coach. He was also a student of Asa and of Asa Gordon, and so he took her, and they just kind of meshed. And she went on to win the world. I couldn't tell you. I want to say world middleweight boxing title, and just got to travel the world and do lots of things through boxing as well.
So we'll definitely see that, and that's definitely another person we'll have to reach out to get on the show. Mitzi, like I said, she was a champion in karate, and she became a world champion in boxing. And when she was working with Barry, I used to actually spar with Mitzi, and and I'd have to spar as intensely with Mitzi as I would with any guy.
Yep.
I mean, she was as tough as they come, and I say she's one of the first high level female fighter that I ever had the opportunity to train and work out with. So we'll definitely reach out.
He's a real deal. He's a real deal for sure.
Yes, we'll definitely reach out and get Mitzi to come and talk to the people. So everybody out there, make sure you look up. I believe on YouTube you can probably find some. I've seen some Missy Jeter boxing matches. So definitely. So all right. So you were with United, and then I remember for a while you had a dojo. Was it up in Helen?
It was close to Helen, probably 20 minutes from there. It was in Clarksville, Georgia.
Yes, sir.
And I was it was about 45 minutes north of Gainesville. Ben had asked if I would go up there and start one, and it was fairly popular, I guess. I did really well with it, and it was growing, but kickboxing started taking off for me, so I was having to go to Atlanta a lot more.
Yes.
And eventually had to step back from teaching for a while because the kickboxing kicked off. I wanted to really focus on that while I could, because as you know, there's a small window for fighting. So
right.
How old were you, Sensei?
24. I was thinking I was 24 when I started my first one.
He was very young. And now, so when I met Kelly, there was another gentleman by the name of Paul Cantrell. So Kelly and Paul came and started training at Dorville Boxing, and you guys had the opportunity of working training under the late great Asa Gordon. Can you tell us something that you remember about Asa?
Asa was more than a boxing coach, I'll tell you that. He taught you a lot about life. The coolest thing about him is he could tell you what was fabric you had. He owned a clothing store, I believe, men's clothing store.
Yes, sir.
So he could tell you what fabric you had in all of your clothes. It was pretty cool. But the thing I liked about him is he stressed manners, even though you're a fighter, whatever. He would stress manners. What are the kids' names that he used to box?
The Cerrone boys.
Yes, Cerrone boys.
Yes.
So we would be at boxing matches or whatever, and they're brothers. Brothers gonna do what brothers do. They'd be acting up. We'd be eating. He'd just turn around and smack them. Hey, calm down. He kept them in line, and he just didn't put up with anything. And the cool thing about him too was, he had this actor's chair, and he'd be sitting there watching you spar, and then after every round, he kind of give you the come here, and he kept try this, turn the angle this way, turn it that way, and if you did what he said, it worked every time.
Yes,
he's a very, very smart coach.
Yes. So with that being said, you mentioned the Cerrone boys and boxing. So once you started working out at Dorville Boxing, you actually, you did it to help you with your kickboxing, but you actually got out there and you started boxing. So
yes.
Tell us about some of your experiences and what made you box.
Well, it was your fault I started boxing. As many things I got into was your fault.
Yeah.
But I was in there just boxing with everybody. I felt pretty good with my hands or whatever. And I think it was the Georgia games was coming up or whatever. Yes. And you guys had mentioned, why not try out for it? You go do it and whatever. So I gave it a shot. Ended up winning the thing. Got the gold medal. It was a shock to me.
Right.
But I was like, all right, cool. This is pretty fun. So then I got an opportunity to be on Team Georgia as the light heavyweight representative to fight against Team Florida. got a great experience with that. And
That's
then,
the Macon, was it the Macon
yeah,
Coliseum, correct? In
yeah,
Macon, Georgia.
Macon Coliseum is a pretty big deal. Lots of tough fighters. Definitely a step up for me. When I did that, I realized, okay, there's different levels of fighting. It's something I learned, as far as that goes with boxing. I got out there thinking I'm just going to walk through those guys, and it didn't happen like that. They were putting me, they were hurting me.
So, and I will come back to the boxing too, because I want to know how training at that boxing gym, how that helped you in your kickboxing and your karate career a little bit later. So, okay, so you, like I said, Kelly was doing, he had a school, he had, and that's pretty young to start. And it's very difficult trying to teach and also trying to train. And, he was running back and forth. We would run back and forth between Atlanta and Gainesville to train. I remember when he was, Kelly also taught at Jimmy Haymore's school in Gainesville. And so a couple of nights a week, he'd come to Atlanta and train. A couple of nights a week, I'd meet him. And as soon as he finished teaching class, we would train. So we were, always going all over the place and training. And I even, you even came with me over to Isaac Thomas, my Taekwondo instructors in Atlanta, to come train sometimes. So we got to train with a lot of different people. And now, speaking of coaches, okay, you had Jimmy Haymore, your first instructor. You came and now there was a gentleman who had a gym, I believe, a boxing gym in Gainesville. Was his name Danny?
Danny Pridgeon. Yep.
And yeah, so I remember we went to go train up at Danny's sometime, and Danny was also United.
Yes, he was.
And then there was a big guy named Bill, who
Bill Beasley,
dojo, right? We go train at Bill's. So you trained, and then over time, I remember we met Pedro Solana, Pedro Villalobos Solana, who is a very, 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 very good Muay Thai fighter. And but we started training with Pedro, and then as tell us about, okay, so when you got into kickboxing, when we both got into kickboxing, it was American professional full contact karate. And this is, for a lot of people, they don't know this, we had to wear the karate pants, long pants, we had to wear our belts, and you still had bowing before and after a match. So, but over time, you started to see Thai boxing, K1, and what we call low kick rules, kickboxing, which was kickboxing with low kicks but no clinching knee. Over time, you started to compete in these other styles of kickboxing. How did that transition come about?
We were at, I'll never forget this day. The very, very first day I ever did leg kicks. We were at Francis Fong's in Gwinnett.
Yes.
And we trained, because Pedro trained out of there a lot. And guys were going to introduce me to leg kicks. I could not get away from a kick to save my life, man. I was like, what is this? Oh, It was so funny. You guys were laughing, it was just, such a great experience for me, even though it hurt. It was a painful experience, but, I enjoyed it so much and realized that this is another aspect, because I always enjoyed learning and growing. So I realized, okay, there's something to this that I really want to learn more. And then just the opportunity started coming about more to do low kick rules or Thai boxing or whatever, more so than the full contact. So as you did as well, you didn't know really from fight to fight what you were going to be doing. You just trained everything that you could, that you knew at the time. And then you just say, well, what rules are we fighting under? And you train a few weeks for just doing those rules, so you wouldn't do something you weren't supposed to do, whatever. Then you just kind of focus in on that. So I think one of my first experience, that was full contact, I think, with Marco London down in Florida.
West Palm Beach, yes.
Yes, West Palm Beach. And the kicks that he had, he was a Thai boxer, former he's a Shidokan black belt, former Shidokan champion as well. The kicks that came off that, there's so much power. I wouldn't throw hardly any punches the first couple of rounds, and, because I was afraid of getting caught, and then finally I started just letting go and loosening up. But I realized there was a lot more to the power behind the Muay Thai kick as opposed to the snapping kicks that we did. So what
Yes,
I
sir.
did is just I didn't abandon what I already knew. I just added to my
Gotcha.
arsenal. Yeah, so I'd use the speed kicks to set up the hard kick, and it sort of just kind of helped me later on down the road as well.
And since you mentioned that particular fight, we go down to fight. He's fighting Marco London, and just for the viewers out there, and we would years later we would become part of Shidokan, but at that time Marco London was probably four or five times Shidokan world champion. And Kelly went the toe to toe with him for maybe 4 or 5 rounds. And so and Marco was a gentleman. We remember going out to eat afterwards, and he came over. He bought us drinks. He was definitely a true gentleman, and we'll definitely get Marco London. I can reach out to him and get him to come and do an interview with us as well. So and I also remember now doing your full contact days before you started getting the low kicks. I remember you became the Southeast champion, and you fought one of Joe Lewis's guys, the great Joe Lewis.
That was for the East Coast IKF. Prior to that was it was for ISKA Southeast. I can't not remember that guy's name. It was at the Georgia Mountain Center.
Okay.
And it ended up, I think it was a 1-round fight or whatever. He was a pretty well decorated kickboxer himself. I think he trained with Mr. Gary Brown.
Okay.
And that's when we butted heads, whatever. And then I didn't like that, so I just kind of went off. And
I remember we had to go. I remember went to the emergency room. You had to get, was it staples or something?
Yes, stitches, about 3 or 4 stitches up there.
It was on the scalp.
Yeah, right on the high up on the scalp. It's just it's one of those bad places. It looks worse than what it is. But anyway, I ended up stopping. What's his name? I can't remember his name. But he ended up having like later on. I had talked to him. He had like 64 stitches from brow to bow. I guess from the shots plus the headbutt and everything else.
Just open it up.
Just open it on up and all that kind of stuff. So, but that was my first title. Then, of course, one of Joe Lewis's guys. I got called on like a couple weeks' notice. Lane Carey was promoting fights, and it was for the heavyweight East Coast title, 7 rounds. End up going through there and winning that via decision. It was a good fight, back and forth. I had absolutely nothing left by the end of the fight. It was a good fight. Very good fight.
That's the throw left hand fight. Throw left hand. Right?
Just when I met Compone.
It's an inside joke we have about the left hand. So you got the, and so therefore so that was like kind of back to back. You win a Southeast title, then an East Coast title.
Right.
And then, so going back to some of the guys you trained with. So you trained with Barry. Then I remember as you started getting into the K1 style and Muay Thai style of fighting, you did a trip out to the West Coast and you trained with a couple guys, a guy named John McPhail and a famous Thai boxer from Thailand by the name of Malapet. Can you tell us about those experiences?
Yeah, John McPhail. I don't know if you remember a forum called Axe Kickboxing. We got to talking through there back and forth, and just kind of getting to know him like that. I ended up getting on a plane and going out there for a training camp prior to the first K1. We'd wake up in the mornings. He had breakfast ready for me, and then I would go do a 6-mile run and come back, and then I would come back and just chill for about an hour. Then we'd go and meet Malapet for about 2 hours, working on Muay Thai, turning my hips more, whipping my hip, whipping my kicks, turning me more into a Muay Thai style fighter.
Yes.
He was very, very good with knees. He would help me with different angles, different positioning, and how to set up the knee as well like that. And he was really, really good. He was only 22, I think, at the time, but at that age, they've been fighting forever. So but he was very, very good at doing that. And then what they would do is I would train 3 times a day. At the end of the day, I would spar. I trained 3 times a day, and then at the end of every week, they would take me to a smoker, which you can't do in Georgia really anymore. But there's basically non-sanctioned fights at different gyms, and they wouldn't tell anybody what I was there for. They would just put me out there They'd try to
Yes.
find the most experienced guy they could. I was not to knock anybody out. I was just kind of get the experience, that kind of stuff. So I got there, and get to work, and they'd be trying to take my head off. It was a real fight. And I'd move around, I would stun them and then back off. And at the end of the fight, I always end up giving them the trophy because I wasn't there for that, But then I made a lot of friends that way. It was pretty neat experience.
All right. So with the K1 now, as K1, so K1 was the premier kickboxing organization in the world, and at first it started out was primarily for heavyweights,
Yes.
and then I guess was it your first K1 fight? Was it under the K1 Gladiators
Yes.
in Milwaukee? Could you tell us about that? And you first, who is the promoter of K1 Gladiator? It was Duke Rufus. Could you please tell us about that experience? How'd that come about?
I noticed an ad. I don't know if it was on IKF. Everything was forums back then, and we didn't have as much social media as we do now. That, or I saw it in a magazine. So I called up and just said, hey, what about this 8-man tournament? Didn't really expect to get in, but a guy named Scott Jaffe, which is his business partner, Duke Rufus's business partner, gave me a call back, did a little small interview about my experience, and I'd had enough fights to qualify. So they put me on the 8-man tournament, and then I did a pretty decent showing. You had people like Giuseppe Danatali, Kurt
Hasley?
Yeah, I think
That's
it was
right,
really
Hasley, yes.
huge guy. Another guy that I fought, Andre Walker. I'm not a natural heavyweight. I should be a cruiserweight at the best, but because there just wasn't any fights for that, I decided to just go ahead and jump up to the heavyweight and go. So, I fared well. I was treated like a king through Duke. He's very professional. Over time, we became very, very, very good friends. He invited me back several times. We would always stay an extra day and we'd go out to dinner. He and his wife would just, take care of us, and we would cook. And then the Sopranos, I don't know if you knew anything about that, but that was a big thing. So we'd always cook Italian dinners and watch Sopranos every time I was up there. It was pretty cool, But
to add on to that, like I said, Duke, I remember being with Kelly up in Milwaukee. Like you said, he would invite us over to his home. He was really, a really wonderful person.
Can you guys give us some background on who Duke Rufus is?
So Duke Rufus is one of he's a world champion. He was super heavyweight, and Duke he was a big guy.
Yep.
But Duke he's the brother of Rick the Jet Rufus, which who in just a moment Kelly will tell us about, because Kelly had the opportunity of being a sparring partner for Rick when Rick was, I guess, lived in Atlanta a couple different times, and Kelly got a lot of work with Rick Rufus, who is, a lot of people consider Rick to be the most famous American kickboxer because of the longevity. Rick started when he was 18 as a pro.
Yeah,
and then and he fought until maybe like a few years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, Duke is now one of the top coaches in mixed martial arts, correct?
Yes, he is. He's a top. He's got Anthony Pettis, several different top rated UFC fighters in his camp. He's got a great gym up there that he's really grown, and just just a super nice guy. He's a martial artist first, and he just kind of gives everything to everybody. He loves what he does. Super positive guy. So
very, very nice guy. Yep. And then now continue with the K1. So you have the K1 heavyweight gladiators, which was, and now notice how he said how he looked in an article and he had to call a number, and then he had to do an interview to get it. In our first podcast, I was telling Pat how when we first fought in the Shidokan, we had to fill out an application.
Yep.
And we had to mail it in to the Chicago Fitness Center, and you basically had to get an approval or get an invitation to be in the tournament. And I thought that was cool. Like you said, now, I mean, people can get online, they can message a promoter or email a promoter. You know, you had to write a request or call and actually speak to somebody, you know?
Yeah.
So from the K1 Gladiators, where, like I said, which was an event that Duke put on to find heavyweights, U.S. talent, because most of the fighters that fought in the K1 were from Europe. You know, the Japanese had fighters, but I think, you know, the first Americans were people like Maurice Smith, Duke Rufus, then his brother Rick Rufus. So, but Duke started putting on these events to find American heavyweights. So from Milwaukee, you ended up fighting in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas.
Yes.
And how did that come about?
Well, I was sparring with Rick. He was here getting ready for the event that I actually ended up getting to fight on. Rick liked fighting with me because I wasn't just a kickboxer, so I would throw the karate kicks, different angles, and like, you know, the boxing and whatever. So I didn't just come straight out there doing the same old thing over and over. So it forced him to do other things that he just, you know, that he could do against Thai boxers and always land. So he always asked me to show up and spar with him just because I gave him a different look. About halfway through his training camp, I get this call, and it's the promoter of K1 USA, and asked me how I do with Rick. I didn't really know what to say because I'm like, well, you know, I'm friends with him. I don't really say. You know, he goes, "You think you can beat him?" I was like, "Well, I can do okay." He said, "You think you can beat him? I need to know if you think you can beat him." I was like, "I can do fine." He goes, "But can you beat him?" I was like, "Well, if this is going to get me in K1, I'm going to go ahead and say it." You know?
Yes.
I can beat him. It was hard for me to say that because I'm really good friends with Rick, you know.
Right.
But he goes, "That's what I wanted to hear." He goes, "From now on, anytime anybody asks you something like that, the answer is yes." So he goes, "No matter what you think, you know." That's okay. Right. So it gives me that. So it gives me the opportunity to come on as an alternate. So I get out there and I had to fight one fight. And what we did then is, if somebody gets injured in it's an 8-man tournament, and like Glory's 4-man tournaments, right? So
yes.
This is an 8-man tournament. So you have to fight 3 times in one night, which is horrible. I don't recommend it for anybody. It's tough. You know, it's the same thing with the triathlon rules with the Shihan, but it's very, very tough night. So, but usually have a lot of injuries. So most of the time you have to step in for that person and take their place. So I ended up winning my first fight. And then, you know, I come on into the main tournament or whatever. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I was winning the fight. I got headbutted the first time out, and it split my skull open to the point to where you could see bone. And I had like 10 seconds left in the fight. I was ahead on all scorecards. I talked to one of the promoters and everything like that. But I had to withdraw because I got injured, so I couldn't do it. So he got to go in my place when the other guy got hit, and he ended up fighting Michael McDonald. The first year I was out there, and I was so mad, you know. I wanted so bad because I had trained so hard for this fight, you know. But you know, it's a contact sport. Things happen, but the experience overall was great. You were treated really good. They treat you like a rock star. You know, the interviews were great. You know, they put you up in nice places. You know, you get you know, nice meals. It was just a great experience all the way around.
Oh, I mean, it was my first time to Vegas. I was in the corner with him, so it was an awesome event. And that guy, I can't remember the guy's name, but how big was that guy? Because
George Randolph was his name. He was 6'8", 280.
So nobody could 6'8". And how tall are you, sir?
On a good day, I'm 6 foot. On a good day, and I would weigh. I fought about, because I was trying to go up to heavyweight. I would fight about 215.
Right.
So he was significantly bigger.
And when I first met Kelly, you guys, like I said, he was a small heavyweight. He actually started out as a light heavy, fighting.
I was a middleweight, a super middleweight, actually.
Yeah. Right. So, you know, to go up, and like I said, I remember he fought this guy, and like I said, this guy, I was, you know, I mean, he's 6'8", but in my mind, I'm like, this dude is like 7'2". Right?
Yeah, he's huge.
And he fought him, And you fought some big guys. You also fought. I mean, like, how big was Carter Williams? Guys, if guys who don't know Carter Williams Carter Williams was he was a K1, a U.S. North American champion. He fought overseas in some big events. How big was he? Because that guy looked like a linebacker.
Yeah, he was a little short. He's probably 6'2", 6'3", maybe. But one of his legs was as big as my legs put together.
Huge.
Humongous.
Yes.
You know, super guy, a super big guy. Really nice. You know, me and his coaches were really good. But athletic as all get out. You know, just a really good athlete all around. But he was huge. I mean, I was really a small heavyweight to be in K1. It was kind of funny. They would scan across the stage, you know. Right. And you kind of see the camera dip a little bit to see me to go back up to everybody else. You know, most people were 6'5" or better. You know, it was pretty funny.
I always tell people the average heavyweight, especially for the K1, you know, the average height was 6'4". You know, they weighed 240, 250, and that was pretty average.
Yeah.
You had, like Kelly was a small guy. Michael McDonald, you mentioned Michael McDonald. He was also a small heavyweight.
Yeah, I think he weighed like 210.
Yeah.
But he was 210 of just solid muscles. Fastest guy I've ever fought in my life. You know.
So with that, you've been in there. I mean, like I said, Kelly, you've been in there with. When I look at, you've been in there with guys like Carter Williams. I mean, he's been in there with multiple world champions, some of the top heavyweight kickboxers the U.S. has ever had. You've been in there with Carter Williams. We said the guy you had the big giant. Giuseppe. You've been in Giuseppe Di Natale, who's from Canada, and you had the opportunity to fight in Canada, in Giuseppe's hometown.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and so what is that like? I mean, you, and then who else? Another guy you fought. We went to, I can't remember the guy's name. Anatoly. Can't say Nazarov or something.
Yeah, well, something like that.
Yeah. So we went to Sochi, Russia, which is where the Winter Olympics were held, and that
they were talking about it coming.
Yes.
They were preparing the airport and everything. When we were there, they were getting everything.
There was a lot of construction going on, and there was like, I guess Sochi is where the rich Russians go to vacation.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And they were in the process, and it was 2 years prior. They were in the process of building up and making the place ready for the Winter Olympics. And he fought this huge guy. I mean, how tall that guy had to be?
Yeah.
6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, he was supposed to be 6'2", 220.
Right.
When we got there,
it was like Drago. It was like Rocky IV.
So it was funny. They made me do this. I just did it as a joke during our press conference. They made us stand side by side to take photos, and I didn't like him being so tall, so I got a chair and I stood in a chair so I could look down at him, and so everywhere we went, they made me do that. They loved that, so it was pretty funny. I just did it as a joke, but they loved it, but it helped promote the fight. Cool thing, there was I was one of the I was only the second American to ever get interviewed by a Russian sports channel, I think it was. Yes. The other one was what's his name? He was a UFC wrestler. My mind just went blank. He was in the Expendables.
Was it Randy?
Yes, the only other person was Randy Couture.
Wow.
So that was pretty interesting. They got to come out there and interview me and stuff like that. So at the end of that fight, the champion had already left the building, and all of the fans were wanting autographs. We were there in the ring for 45 minutes, probably, weren't we?
Yes, right after the fight.
Yeah, they didn't want anything to do with him. They wanted to meet us, the Americans, and it was really, really cool. They loved it. It was. It kind of reminded me of a Rocky movie because, I came out, I'm sitting there ready to go out. They throw some AC/DC on, and all of a sudden these circus. It was in the middle of a circus they have. These circus girls surround me and start dancing, all this kind of stuff. It looked straight out of, like a Rocky movie. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. So I'm gonna go with this, and they had to go and play it on and stuff. He comes out and he's got this old warrior helmet on, and he's marching and just playing this just real cold type music. I was like, oh boy, it's gonna be fun. But that was a 12-round war for sure. That was a good fight.
Speaking of that, you just said 12 rounds. So in today's kickboxing, guys will fight 3-round fights. They'll fight 5-round fights. What was it like fighting 12 rounds?
It was tough.
And earlier you said, I think you fought one of your title fights was 7 rounds.
Yeah.
So those days are gone. Like I said, nowadays when guys fight or they fight, we call it now they call it glory rules, but it's actually K1 rules. And before that, it was Oriental rules. Is that correct? Now, with that being said, tell us about, you won another title in Gainesville, and you fought, what was the guys from Virginia?
Mike.
It'll come to me, but you fought in, so at that time it was ISKA US Oriental Rules Championship.
Correct.
And
they made us do 5 rounds, and I knew him as having a really tough chin. I've seen him actually laid out cold. Now they would just wave it off, but then they would give you the 10 count, whatever. I've seen him basically his head's hanging out of the ring, and he would get up and shake it off and get up and finish a fight. I was like, well, I'm not going to try and knock him out.
Right.
I'm just going to try to outscore him. So I outboxed him. He's like a 2-time like an intercontinental boxing champion.
Right. He was pro boxer also.
Yeah. Really, really good. But I just moved angles on him and just picked him apart and just tried to fight a smart fight and beat him on points, which I did. But by the end of the fight, both of his eyes were closed. I mean, he called me later that week. He said when he got home to drive from the airport from the airport to the house, he had to hold one eye open with his hands
so he could see.
So he could see, yeah. So but it was a lot of fun, and he was a great guy.
Oh yeah, great guy. And now, with that being said, do you find that most of the guys that you fought, win, lose, or draw, were pretty cool guys?
Most of them were. Most of them came from a martial arts background.
Yes.
And they didn't have that thuggish attitude. They were taught respect first,
yes.
Which is so. It was nothing more than a sport does. It wasn't personal.
Right.
Right. You might have a personal problem, but once the fight was over, the fight was over.
Yes.
You went and some of my best friends, I've punched in the face. It's been great.
Right.
So
we punched each other a lot in the face.
Yes, we have. He broke my nose. I want to put that on record. It was laid over here.
And okay, that was an accident.
He did it. He did.
So let me ask you. So now, like I said, so you fought. So like I said, you did you did some boxing. You did the American kickboxing to the K1. You did some Thai boxing. Now, the Shidokan. Okay, so
yes.
Like I said, I told my story of how I got in the Shidokan, and I said that it was me, you, and Pedro. We went down to Fort Lauderdale. So tell me about your Shidokan. I remember a fight that stands out in my mind. It was like you guys remember the movie Bloodsport?
Of course.
Okay, and you remember how guys would come out. Yeah, a guy would come out, and so his first fight, he's fighting this guy, and this guy was definitely did a lot of point fighting, and it was, I swear to you, this is just like a movie. The guy starts throwing these tornado kicks, these 360 roundhouse kicks, and he threw like 3 or 4 of them in a row. And Kelly just kind of looks at him. He moves away from him. As soon as the guy stops, Kelly kicks him with the low kick, and the guy falls down.
Yep, that was it.
And then I think you need him.
Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah, so first he kicks him with a low kick, and the guy falls down. Then he gets up and he needs him, and then it's like an Enter the Dragon. It's like the match is over. Bow out. So,
and go on the next one. Yeah.
So tell me. So tell me about how about Shidokan. How what did that do for you in your martial arts career? What attracted you to it?
I love the fact that it changes rules, because we got to go do either judo or some kind of grappling tournament, or we got to do a kickboxing tournament, boxing tournament. And then, the whole bare knuckle thing was new to me,
Yes.
So I was like, you remember seeing it on ESPN. I was like, well, let's go do that,
Right.
So, here we are, we're in the boxing gym, and we're going back and forth. We've been doing some judo with Nakjun Kim, And so we just practiced and how we wanted to apply our striking and judo together, and started just practicing the bare knuckle stuff, and just kind of just.
Here's a funny to add to that. So we had met Master Nakjun Kim, who was a phenomenal judo instructor in Georgia at the time. Currently, he's in Louisiana. And then, if you remember, at the boxing gym, there was Jeff Finger.
Yep.
And Jeff Finger, he had been in the military, and he had studied. He was one of the instructors for the Gracie Grapple program, and Grapple was a grappling curriculum of self-defense group that they designed, that the Gracie family designed for police and law enforcement. And Jeff was an instructor. Like I said, he got out of the military. As a matter of fact, Jeff originally, let me back up, Jeff trained with Mike Moore. Do you remember Mike Moore?
Yes, I do.
Mike Moore was a famous kickboxer from Georgia back in the, I guess, 70s and 80s. Jeff was one of his black belts, and he was on the Air Force boxing team. Then he got into grappling and tactical combatives, and when we met him, I believe that's what he did. He was doing that for a living. I think he eventually became a political consultant.
He did.
But at the time we met him, he was doing hand-to-hand training with law enforcement. And we would work out at the boxing gym, and we would grapple in a canvas matted boxing ring.
Yep.
And
fun times.
And if you remember world champion O'Neal Bell.
Yes.
O'Neal Bell, he was a cruiserweight world champion, but before boxing, he was like a national level wrestler. So he'd see us grappling, and then so we would work out, kickbox and box, and then we would go and grapple and get carpet burn.
Yeah, it was awful. I loved it.
So you end up so like I said, you end up after that. So you did your first Judokan tournament in 2000, and then like I said, before that you fought the multiple world champion Marco London in a kickboxing match.
Yeah.
And you also fought another famous fighter known as Mr. International, Shoney Carter. You guys fought, was that 2001?
Somewhere around that time. I don't remember.
And it was a close match that Shoney won.
Yep.
But can you tell us what happened to both of you guys in that fight?
We both broke our hands. I was like, I'm gonna bust him when we got ready because we were doing the knockdown stuff. We were throwing each other, doing because you could do judo throughout the whole match, which was pretty cool. So we're throwing each other around. So when we got the gloves on, so I'm gonna bust this guy in the face. But Shoney's been around a while, so he kind of knew how to do things. He's real crafty. So as soon as I let my left hand go, he dipped his head. I hit him right in the crown right there, and that was the end of that punch. And he ended up breaking his hand on my head later on or whatever.
You paid him back.
Yeah. So so we both had to withdraw from the tournament because of that. I tried to get back out there, but Eddie wouldn't let me. He's like, squeeze my hand. I was like, I am. Just because I was trying to do anything I could to get back out there. But
so what I was telling the guys in our first podcast, I was talking about a situation where 2002. When I fought Mati the first time, it was you and Duke Rufus in the corner, and so it was last week. We were doing a fight breakdown of Team USA, and Mati fought Thomas Corcel, beat Thomas Corcel, and then in the finals, I'm fighting Thomas Corcel, and I was explaining that they came up with a survivor rule where, because the guy I was supposed to fight Rolando Higueros, who beat Remy Bonell. But Rolando he had an injury, so they took the remaining fighters. They had to draw straws, and I said the reason they did that is because of when you were in a 4-man tournament. It was you, Shoney Carter, Hector Monterey, and a guy from Canada. I don't remember the guy's name.
I can't.
Hector beat the guy from Canada. You and Shoney fought, but there was nobody to fight Hector in the finals.
Right.
And both of you had broken hands, so they wouldn't let you guys fight. So the following year, they said, we're going to create this thing called the survival rule. Anyway, so I talked about that and wanted you to give us a little your experience about that.
Yeah, well, you ended up with Matee, right? Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that was, so we fought Matee twice. So remember,
Yes.
we fought Matee in the Team USA.
Yep.
Then we fought him 6 months later in the lightweight World Open.
Yeah.
And Kelly was in my help me. And I remember when I trained for like I said, what we would do is we would get a bunch of guys. You get Josh.
Yeah.
Remember when we would get ready for the Shidokan tournaments, this is what we would do. We would get 3 guys, right? We had Josh, and what was the big guy who's got in the grappling?
Mike Risher. Mike Risher.
Yes. Then we get Jeff Finger. What we would do is we would get, let's say, 3 guys. So if Kelly was sparring, Kelly would have to do 3 rounds of karate with 3 different people.
Right.
Then we do kickboxing, 3 different people, 3 rounds each.
Fresh.
And right. Then we do the same thing with the grappling, and that's one of the ways we would train for the triathlon.
Yeah.
And on top. So now I remember in the mid 2000s, you started competing in what was known as the World Combat League.
Yes.
Could you tell us what was the World Combat League?
Well, it was Chuck Norris had owned the World Combat League. He actually tried to start this way back in the, I want to say early 80s, maybe early 90s.
Yes.
But kickboxing sort of faded at the time or whatever. But he had a great sponsor. He was on the channel Versus, which I don't even think's around anymore. They got bought out by somebody. But,
not anymore.
So he had this. The cool thing it was about that they did this time is they had this big, huge pit basically that you had to fight in. They had no ropes, but it had like a 4-foot padded ramp that you could, it sort of give you like a warning where you're going to be close to the edge of the mat.
Right.
They'd fill up arenas to do that, and you'd have different teams. Like I was on Miami Force. You had Philadelphia, New York, Houston, different people, L.A., all over from around. You had 6-man teams, different weights. You usually had 1 female, sometimes 2, depending on what year it was or whatever. But you had different weight classes all the way through. And if you won the match by decision, it'd be like 15-12, something like that. If you won the match by knockout, it'd be 15-0. So then it'd go back and forth, and whoever had the most points at the end of the 6 matches or whatever, they would you would win the bout. And then you would just go through like a year-long tournament, and you would rank or whatever. We had a really good team with Miami Force, and we beat everybody. We just went through everybody, but they had the best of the best of different kickboxers and sport karate guys that you could find. Raymond Daniels was one of them. Basically, anybody you think of, had fought in that within the American fighters.
Well, you asked a question.
Is that the picture on the wall at the gym of you, Sensei, in the blue uniform, standing in
Yes.
the row with the other fighters?
The nice bright blue. I hated that. I was like, we've got all these colors. We picked this. So if you wear that color, you better know how to fight. That's all I'm
I was about to say they had to be tough because of the colors. The
I was
baby
like,
blue.
great,
So,
got
so
other guys with these nice green and black and red, really cool colors and stuff. We got there with light baby blue. I was like, okay, whatever.
and so basically, you're saying this is not like an individual fight. It was like a team effort.
Yes. Yeah. You had a, it wasn't like a battle royal or anything. Everybody's out there just swinging on each other. It was, single fights, but you had to perform well to keep your team alive. So
Gotcha.
sometimes guys will just get, you see knockout after knockout, and sometimes they just finish it because you're there, so they might as well let everybody fight. But there was, the matches were always close and
So,
really,
and you
really
said, so if let's say if you're fighting a guy and you win by knockout, your team got extra points.
it would be 15-0. So
Right.
it would just spread. It would just be a bigger spread as you went along.
Gotcha. And now, with that being said, like one thing that was unique about that I found that was unique about the World Combat League, and even with Shidokan, what was really unique is that those were two different organizations. Where, like in World Combat League, I saw you had Sport Karate, you had Jason Borelli,
Yep.
you had
Stephen
Raymond
Wonderboy
Daniels.
Thompson.
Right.
Stephen
Yes, Stephen
Thompson.
Wonderboy Thompson, who's now one of the ranked guys in UFC. You had the Injuani brothers. They were Thai boxers, but they were also mixed martial. Both fought in the UFC. You had one of the guys I believe on your team was it Crafton Wallace.
Yes, Crafton Wallace was
So
on
you
there.
you had Thai boxers, you had MMA fighters, you had it doesn't matter. It didn't matter what background. You had a variety of different stylists competing under the same event, which is rare, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I thought that's one thing that was pretty cool. And I was gonna say with the Shidokan, I thought was pretty cool is that you'd have guys that were kickboxers, MMA fighters, karate fighters. That was pretty cool to see. Because now, if a guy is an MMA fighter, a lot of times they were wrestlers or grapplers. You might not find a guy who was a kickboxer or sport karate guy in
Right.
it, especially during that time.
Right.
Yep. And
Yeah,
so
right.
now you, like I said, going back to you as a trainer. So right now you have a gym. Could you please tell everybody about your current gym?
My current gym is Full Throttle Fitness. It's in Gainesville. And basically, I've set the gym up on Shidokan principles. We do grappling, kickboxing, and karate.
Yes.
Everything. We mix it all together. I've got guys that do MMA. I have guys that do just Thai boxing. Guys who
Right.
only do jiu-jitsu.
Right.
I have a great coach, Scott Moore, who helps us with the jiu-jitsu. Who recently got his black belt through Pedro Sauer, which is a great
Congratulations,
black belt.
Scott.
Yeah. So we're proud of him for that. He had a tough challenge getting to his black belt. He
Yes.
went through a couple of different coaches or instructors. Just they would move or whatnot. These things happen. So we found these guys in that part of the Pedro Sauer system, and
Right.
I like it because it's kind of self-defense oriented, which is kind
Right.
of where I've sort of taken some of my other classes as well. So.
Right. And let me ask you. So, and now before Scott was teaching, and I know you had a gentleman.
Yep.
And who started your jiu-jitsu program?
It was John Grantham, late John Grantham. He's since passed, and can't tell how many years it's been, but John actually got to go travel with us to K1.
Right.
He was good, always good to have around. He was very unfiltered.
Yes.
Made everybody laugh, and everybody
Yes.
knew he was in the room. When he was there, he was just one of those guys that he was good to have around. Not to mention, he was about 6'5" to 320 pounds. He was a big dude.
He was a training partner for you as well.
Yeah, especially
Right.
for K1, he was good to have. So if I see him every day. So I'd get across with somebody else. I didn't really think too much about it because I was used to sparring with somebody that big anyway. So he helped me, as far as the power and size and
Right.
moving big guys around, that kind of stuff. But he did jiu-jitsu and as well, and he started his own little program. Then we ended up kind of meshing together shortly
Yes.
after he started one, I started one. We was kind of meshing together, and Full Throttle Fitness was born. Full Throttle Fitness, the name came from basically being a part of World Combat League. They should talk about full throttle fighting, full
Yes.
throttle action, full throttle this. I said, man, that would be a great name, Full Throttle Fitness, for a
Right.
martial arts place. So that's kind of where it was named. My wife Trisha helped me remind me of that when I was trying to think of different names I wanted to call
Right.
it. She
Right.
goes, don't you remember Full Throttle Fitness? I was like, oh yeah, right. So she reminded me and slapped me upside the head. That's what we call it. So
Now, she will do that, and we're going to
Yes.
talk about her in a second. So now with like I said, John, like you said, John was also He won a Shidokan title. John was he won a 4-man heavyweight.
Yeah.
Thai boxing tournament in Chicago. And like I said, he was a funny guy, a gentle giant, and he'll be greatly missed. Now we also lost another warrior along the way. Earlier I mentioned Paul Cantrell. You trained his wife. Her name was Erin Cantrell, and Erin, as beautiful as she was, she is probably 2 times more deadly as a fighter. Could you tell us about Erin?
Yeah, she was very feisty. She didn't mind mixing it up. She didn't mind, giving you her peace of mind on everything. But great athlete. She did a lot of sport karate coming up.
Yes.
Then she didn't mind the challenges. You just say you're gonna fight this person. She didn't ask, a million questions. What do they do? What are this? She just said, okay, when is it? We get her ready, and she'd fight anybody. She didn't care. And
now speaking of Trisha, who was Erin's first amateur fight with?
It was Trisha.
Wow.
It was
wow.
Trisha opened up with a Superman.
I don't know if you know this. That fight now, because I guess John D'Angelo. And a big shout out to John D'Angelo. We've known John D'Angelo forever, and John was one of the first promoters who mixed various styles of fighting on one show. You might have a point fighting, stick fighting, kickboxing, Thai boxing, grappling. If there's somebody you didn't like from elementary school, he let you fight him on that show.
That's true. That's true.
So, and if I remember, Erin and Trish, it was a knockdown, drag out fight for 3 rounds, and that's on YouTube as well. And but like I said, you had Erin and Erin. I remember one time we went to Virginia, where I remember her knocking somebody out cold.
Yeah, it was who was it? It was I think it was the current. It was a WKA Muay Thai champion, I believe it was. She dropped that girl. Erin was not supposed to win, and she put her.
Yes, the first time I ever seen a woman knocked out cold was Erin Cantrell knocking this woman out with I guess it was a right hand, and she went to sleep.
Yep.
Incredible. Incredible.
Yeah.
So now let's go back. So you worked. So let's talk about Trisha. Now Trisha she's truly I would probably say, as far as I know, the most accomplished, male, female, she's probably definitely one of the most accomplished fighters to ever come out of the state. She was a world champion in Muay Thai and in boxing.
Yep. It was.
Could you tell us a little bit about Miss Trisha?
She had a great amateur career. I got her when she turned pro.
Yes, sir.
And she trained with Gary Brown and a few, various other people. She trained at Dorville for a little while too.
Right.
She had a lot of boxing matches. She fought on the national level in the Golden Gloves boxing. Wow. She just, she started doing a cardio kickboxing class, and then just ended up becoming a fighter. I guess she just wanted to stay, get in shape, and she ended up beating everybody up. But they came to me about a month before she started. She had a fight scheduled with Holly Holm in Arizona.
Right.
And because I'm southpaw, and Holly's southpaw, they wanted somebody who had some kind of knowledge to do that. So I started working with her just to kind of help her out. And, we ended up going out there and knocking Holly out cold in the 4th round.
Wow.
And from that point
and that was in her hometown.
That was in Holly's hometown. She was with,
Wow.
She's still with Winklejohn and all that. I didn't know a lot about Holly at all, if anything, really. I was like, well, okay, let's get ready. She's southpaw. Let's do this. But she does this. Let's work on these things. And we went out there. I happened to go to the restroom prior to warming up Trisha. I saw Holly in the dressing room warming up. I was like, holy shit, we got to fight. We got a fight on our hands, I was like, oh, man. But, she's very tall. She's 5'9".
Yes.
Trish was, and Trish went up to weight because Holly normally used to fight at 150, and Trish would fight from 127 to 132. So they met at 140.
Right.
Trisha came up in weight. She came down in weight. They met kind of in the middle. But, they wanted to fight. So they fought, and it was a very close fight back and forth. And then Trish threw an overhand right, man, right at the perfect moment, and it connected on that chin, and that's the last thing Holly remembered. So
Wow.
she
Wow.
was,
Incredible.
I mean,
Incredible.
she went stiff, just one of those, and
Oh
fell back,
yeah.
yeah, that kind
Wow.
of stuff. It was a hard shot, and just
Incredible.
from that point on, I became her head coach.
Now and now her was her boxing world title, was that in Germany?
That was in Stuttgart, Germany. We got a call again. She had a few pro fights, whatever. They didn't have anybody over there, so they gave us a call, and let's go do it. What can happen? I had a lot of faith in Trisha's hands. She's got the unbelievable power. She's
Yes.
an unbelievable athlete anyway. She listens very well. She always trained very, very hard. So I was like, let's go do it. So they had scheduled. It was for the world title. I think women did 10 rounds at the time.
Yes.
So for 7 rounds, it was back and forth. It was really, really close. And I was like, look, we're in Germany fighting the world champion that's
Right.
from Germany. We've got to go for broke. So
Yes.
she came out there, and Trisha's, she's left-handed, but she fights right-handed. So her left hook is wicked,
Yes.
So she gets out there, and she starts throwing left hooks on this girl. So, and finally the girl just ends up quitting in the 7th round. No, she didn't come out to answer the bell in 8, and for the 8th round. And little did we know, later on we all went to a dinner and all. They always do post-fight
Yes.
dinners and stuff. She basically gave her she's partially paralyzed on that, I guess would be her right side of her face, just from so many hooks that Trish was throwing. She won the title, and here we are. I think there was 2 other people with American flags waving their flags up in the audience, up there and stuff like that. We were just jumping up and down.
Probably some soldiers stationed over there, right?
Could have been, yes. They were like, yeah, and everybody else is just stunned because this girl was the pride of women's boxing
Wow.
over there, and
So it was a big upset.
yeah, it was a huge upset, So it was a great opportunity for us.
Now and then her Muay Thai world title, that was on the same show where you won your US title.
Yes.
In Gainesville, and she
Right.
fought a woman from England.
Yes.
Right.
And that was I think they went all 5 rounds, I believe. It was a good fight.
That was a war.
Yeah, it was back and forth. That girl was a straight up Muay Thai. Trish's boxing. Again, she had really good strong hands. End up, winning the fight. She had good kicks, but she would always connect with her hands before that girl would get her kicks and knees off. So.
That was exciting. Now with that, you also promoted that event.
Yes, I did.
So,
I'll never do that again. I fight on the same event and promote the same event. Take it from me.
It was great fight because
Yeah.
what you're supposed to do, if you're supposed to be like Floyd. I'm not trying to knock on Floyd. You're supposed to make sure it's an easy fight when you fight on the shows you promote. But you fought a hard fight. Trisha had a hard fight.
Yep.
Good friend of ours, Lane Carter, he had a really hard fight.
Yeah,
You had Marty Hornstein fight on that show. Marty Hornstein fought Lane Carter, and Marty Hornstein is another guy who fought in a lot of Shidokan events. He fought in UFC.
Yeah, he's tough.
It was like, I
remember matching that fight, because Lane, he wanted to fight. He wanted to fight. He said, Lane, I really don't know if I can get this done. I was kind of maxed out on my budget anyway, and so he kept on. So I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. Modi was the current champion, so Corey Schaefer, I called him, and he got me Modi's number. So I called up there, and I said, hey, look, I got a guy that wants to fight Modi for his title, whatever. And I was speaking to his secretary, and she goes, you understand who Modi is, Greg? I said, yes, I do. I've got a guy that wants to fight Modi. I understand, and so we set it up. Modi comes out there. I love Lane to death, but this shot, I'll never forget this. I remember watching this fight. He hit Lane so hard with the punches, Lane started going out and started falling forward, and all of a sudden Modi throws a kick and wakes him back up. And then they end up finishing the fight. It was was really crazy. You know, I was like, holy crap, I've never seen that before. You know,
Hey, that right there is like, you guys remember that movie? You remember Martin Lawrence show?
yeah,
Do you remember this episode where he fought Tommy Hearns, and he had like at the end of the fight, at the end of the show, he says to Gina, his girlfriend, "I don't want to fight no more," and he had these lumps like coming out
yeah,
of his scalp, like he had like lumps coming, like you see it coming out of his hair. It looked like
yeah,
if you looked at him, it looked like five guys jumped on him. I mean, that was incredible.
yep, yep,
But like I said, you've always worn several hats, you know,
yep,
and on top of you, like I said, running, either teaching, training people, fighting. You know, you also have two beautiful daughters who
yep.
are also black belts.
Yes, they
You
are.
know, you've I've seen you work multiple jobs while also running a school. Can you please tell people how difficult it is, you know, for you to run a business, you know, you're still fighting, you
Yeah,
know, how
it,
difficult is that?
it's very, very difficult. You know, it's tiring at the end of the day when you put your head down on the pillow. It doesn't take long to go to sleep. I can tell you that. The days start early. You know, they end late. It's just it's nonstop. You know, that's a lot of people, even my students, I don't think understand that when I leave the gym, my job is not over. That's when my trainer slash manager, whatever you want to call me,
Yes.
would begin. It was after hours. It would be anywhere from 8 to 10 or 8 to 11 o'clock at night. I'd be on the phone with promoters, talking stuff, arranging things, putting schedules together. It's constant, you know.
Right.
And even today, training fighters and even running a gym. I'm not fighting anymore myself, but it's hard to find time to train. You're fighting as well as hard by helping everybody else. It's hard to find time to also train yourself to get ready for fights. You know,
Right.
it makes it real difficult.
You say you don't fight, Sensei, but I remember an amazing sewing at Yosekai, right?
Yeah.
Well, well, well. Okay, so I still get out there and I play around a little bit. I don't take anything serious anymore. I literally took that on 10 days notice. I thought we had another guy going to compete. He'd hurt his back or something like that. So I wanted somebody to represent us.
Inspired me. I was very nervous to see you go out there and fight bare knuckle. I think that was my second bare knuckle fight.
That was your second bare knuckle fight,
Yeah.
and you saw.
You just went out there and got it done.
Yeah, well, he's like, that dumb old guy did it, so let me go do it, you know?
Well, I will say this. Like I said, you know, over the years, and unlike a lot of instructors that just sit off the wayside and talk about yesterday, Kelly still walks the walk, and you've been busy. You stay busy. Every once in a while, you get out there. You'll do some point fighting.
Yep.
You've done some continuous fighting. You've done some bare knuckle. You've done some judo. You know, he's done some grappling. So he stays busy. Now, you also just recently finished your training to become a pistol instructor.
Yes, I've been doing competitive shooting for about 7 years now.
Yes.
With IDPA, it's International Defensive Pistol Association.
Gotcha.
And I liked it. I fell in love with it, you know, and just over time, I had a lot of people asking me, hey, you know, so my wife has a new gun. She won't listen to me, whatever, you know, can you do this? So for the past year, I've been getting those questions. So I was like, well, okay, well, I'm going to go get my certification with NRA. So I did that. It was a long 3 days. I'm talking about 12, 14-hour days of just information and testing and qualifying. I had to shoot, qualify, and everything, and just to demonstrate, you know, that I know what I'm talking about, kind of stuff.
Yes.
So I got that, and then that happened in July. And before I even went, I just kind of posted, okay, we're going to go. I'm going down. I just did it on Facebook, just put it out there, just, you know, talking about it. That next week, I've had at least 3 students a week wanting to learn how to shoot. It's different people calling me, whatever. Now we've started to do classes. My first class is going to be next Saturday, from 9 to 4. We've got another one on the 17th, and we're looking to do another one in July. We're only taking like 8 to 10 at a time right now. Me and another guy, Mike Lisk, that's also an NRA instructor. We've combined things together. My goal with that is to start building up and kind of building like civilian warriors type things, where we do like a hand-to-hand, like a 2 to 3 day class where you do hand-to-hand, combatives,
Yes.
You know, tactical fitness stuff. As long as they have to be above and beyond just a basic shooter, to start teaching them how to, the strategic side of things, and how to shoot around cover and all that. So that's where we're going with that. Just an extension of the full throttle business that we already have.
Gotcha. Now prior to that, if I remember, like I said, you've been training, with firearms for several years, and I know you've done some work with a gentleman was an FBI guy, somebody in law enforcement that I know.
Just Joe Thompson and several other police officers. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you've been working at this for some time, so it's not like
Right.
you went and just did some quick little training.
Started, hey, look, let's go do this.
now let's talk about your like I said, you have a black belt through United Karate,
Yep.
Which is a style of Taekwondo. You are a black belt in Shidokan Karate, and
Yep.
you were promoted by the founder Sueno. You also have been working with a gentleman by the name of Vince Morris. Can you please tell everybody who Vince Morris is?
Vince Morris is the founder of Kasaki Kai Karate, which is a self-defense based system, and they do a lot of weapons training. He actually trained. He came to and lived in America for a while and trained a lot of higher level law enforcement agencies, Secret Service, things like that. Have trained a lot of people in England. He lives in France now. Trained a lot of their military and police force as far as hand-to-hand stuff, and as far as weapon disarms and things like that. Randomly one day I got this call from a guy in Habersham doing which is basic Clarksville, where I used to train.
Yes.
Asked if I wanted to do a seminar, just do some leg kicks. I was like, okay, I'll come do that. Didn't think anything about it. I was going to come do my part and then go. There were two guys up there from Michigan. One was from Michigan, one was from Texas. One's Robin Short out of Texas. The other was Phil Oates from Michigan. They're both like 5th degrees with Kasaki Kai. And as I was teaching everybody, they were there to instruct. And they just sort of saw what I was doing with the leg kicks, inside, outside, getting angles and whatnot, and started adding my leg kicks to what they do. And so we started just talking back and forth, because they'd never seen somebody do that way. They just haven't seen it,
Yes.
To us, it's nothing, but they've never done it that way. So they started adding to that, this, that, and the other. So I started asking them questions about katas, because they were there for the bunkai part of the martial arts. And they did a couple of moves on me, and I went flying like 5 feet. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. What about this? And I go flying again. And they started beating the crap out of me doing these kata moves, I was like, okay, there's something to this. So it was only a few months later, I had them coming to do a seminar. And then all of a sudden, Vince Morris, I guess they were talking about things that I did. We sort of meshed it. But Vince Morris flies over here from France. And then we had a national seminar for people coming from Colorado, some from Canada, Northeast, Northwest. They were coming from everywhere to do this weekend. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, weekend-long seminar, and just to learn, and then train for Vince Morris. And I really wanted to do it for the tactical stuff. I just wanted to get the tactical stuff, but I learned way more than I ever thought I was going to do.
Yes, sir. So
that
now,
been doing that probably 6 or 7 years, I guess now.
Right. And so you got a lot going on at Full Throttle. I mean, you have the fitness element. Yep. You're like I said, you have the martial arts element, various martial arts. You have the kickboxing, Thai boxing, the karate. You have both the traditional, what we consider traditional, and the sport karate. Yep. So you have a lot of different programs, and now you also have the tactical combative element. So what do you see in the future for Full Throttle?
Man, who knows, man? I'm open to anything. If I see something I think, hey, that's pretty cool, I want to learn that, I'm going to go after it, go learn it. and I'll do that the rest of my life. You know,
Yes.
I definitely like the judo. The judo. I remember we were training with Nak Jun Kim. That's when I kind of sort of put the katas together
Yes.
with the with judo. I was like, okay, there's something more to this than just sticking your arm out here in this random place. It's grabs and throws and sweeps and stances or that kind of stuff. So I just want to kind of keep blending and growing and just I'm excited to see where it goes. I want to kind of develop more instructors to maybe even branch out. Who knows? To go put
Yes.
different satellite places around.
Oh, very cool. Now, and on top of that, you've also lastly, you've also been, you're also a coach to competitors too. I've seen you've had, people fighting in, sport, sport karate, kickboxing, mixed martial arts. So you're staying active in that area as a coach and trainer as well.
Yeah, yeah. As they say, if you do it twice or whatever, you learn it twice by teaching. So
Oh, awesome.
I'm constantly learning. And helping people with different flexibility, body types, whatever helps me learn as well. Because I was like, this is not going to work for this person, but this over here will work for that. This will work for you. Let's just do that kind of stuff, which is kind of the original intent of martial arts in the first place.
Wow. Well, man, you have any more questions, Pat?
No, just an honor. I've known you for a long time, Sensei. This is the first time I've ever got to talk to you.
Well,
So
I hope that this discussion with Kelly, all the listeners, I hope you guys can appreciate. We put a lot of history out there for you. Oh, before I forget, how did you get the name the Lion?
That's a good question, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously my last name's Leo. So, Leo the Lion kind of hit, it just, I don't know. I couldn't really tell you. It just sort of stuck one day. Unless you remember and I don't. But sometimes I've been hit a lot. So
it's a cool name. And I just know that we just started calling him the Lion. I don't even know why. Maybe it's Leo the Lion, but it's a cool name. And I'm glad, like I said, I thank you for your time. I thank you. Like I said, Kelly has always supported everything that I've ever done.
Yep.
He was the best man at my first wedding.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
He's like I said, he helped me prepare for some of the toughest fights I've ever had, and we've been able to corner each other. Anything that we've done here in Atlanta, he always brings people from Shidokan, North Georgia, we call them, because not only is he Full Throttle Fitness, but we also call him Shidokan, North Georgia.
Yep.
He always supported everything that we've ever done. I appreciate all the contributions that you've given to the martial arts as well. And I know there's going to be a lot more.
Oh yeah, we're looking forward to it. Well, we've got one thing we're working on. I don't know if you want to mention that yet, but
we were working on a book.
Yes, we're working on a book.
We've been working on a book, by the way, folks. Okay,
Yep.
So we're gonna. It's gonna be a first of several, we hope, and we're gonna get back to work on this. Like I said, it's very difficult. Like I said, we both run gyms and got families and do a bunch of things, but we've been here and there. We've been working on a book for you guys.
Yeah,
and we're going to get it out there, get back to work on it, and get it out there for all to see.
Yeah, kind of our history, and then putting some techniques together and kind of show everybody how you can blend all this stuff together.
Yes, and one thing I appreciate that we've, like I said, we're kind of, we're old school, but we're still new school. We bring the tradition, we mix the traditional with the modern, and I think our legacy is to kind of still tie, keep that remnants of the past.
Yeah.
And we keep it alive.
Yeah, I want to bring back respect to fighting. I love the I love the respect aspects of martial arts, and I want to all of my students, and as well as yours, to be respectful. No matter what, you can promote fights or whatever, but at the end of the day, be respectful. Bring that aspect of the history of the martial arts back into the fight game. And, sometimes you see these some of the, you know, it's not bashing UFC at all, but some guys, they think they got to be mad at each other to go have a great fight. You know, I've been laughing with people, you know, prior to going out there, and as soon as the bell rings, we start punching each other in the face, and have a great time. So.
Yeah, I say the same thing. I watch these fights nowadays. I'm like, guys, is it that serious? I mean, where's the fun? You know, can't have fun.
Yeah. So, and again, apologize. It's getting dark out on me. I had to turn the lights on.
Oh no, we're able to see everything.
The most quiet place that I have right now in my house is my truck. I've got 4 or 5 dogs, and they love to let me know that they're security. So they make too much racket. So I figure I come out here.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. And once again, we thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. See you.